Yo, what's going on, you guys? Your boy Devon Terrell in raw form, and welcome to another Help Me Devon raw tutorial. And today, in this Help Me Devon raw tutorial, I'll be showing you guys how to get a brighter vocal in your mixes. Let's get right to it. Okay, so for the most part, this is one of my own songs. It's called Homewrecker on all streaming platforms. I'm gonna play you the vocal and the entire song. I want you to listen to the vocal in reference with the song. Listen closely to that relationship.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. Can't lie, I'm confused, baby. Cause you was just talking crazy to me in DMs. It all makes sense now, cause...
Okay, so you hear the vocal. It's up front. It has presence. It feels bright. It really sits well within the premise of that mix. Now, how did I get the vocal to be bright without adding harshness or making it so jarring to your ear? The secret to this is EQ. It's really not much of a secret. I'm pretty sure you assumed that I was doing that anyway, but it's the way that I'm using the EQ. And how am I using the EQ? I'm doing subtractive EQing in order to bring out a lot of that brightness in the vocal. Now, when I say subtractive EQ, and I'm telling you that I'm pulling out frequencies in that vocal to bring out the brightness in that vocal. Because what we have to understand is this. When you're listening, or how your ears perceive sound is, your ears are not just honed in on a frequency range. You don't solo a frequency range with your ears. Your ears hears a sound in its totality, no matter what you do to the bottom of it, to the top of it, to anything. So your ears are going to perceive a lack of bottom end as brightness. It's just how it is. Now, granted, it's going to feel thinner, but nonetheless, that is a characteristic of brightness. So when you take out some stuff in that low end or do some subtractive EQing, you're going to notice that the vocal overall wise sounds brighter. Stay with me. Okay, so what we're going to do is, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to walk on over to the first EQ that we have in our chain, right? And all I'm going to do is really focus on the EQs in this, because that's really what I want you to take away from this. So here's the first EQ. I'm going to bypass it back and forth. I'm going to play it with and without and let you get an idea of what it sounds like. So without first. Listen close. And I'll keep bypassing it back and forth.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. I can't lie, I'm confused, baby. Cause you was just talking crazy to me in DMs. It all makes sense now, cause I never been to your house, never answered your phone when we outside chilling, yeah. To say I'm jealous is an understatement.
Okay, so when you hear that, when I have it bypassed, you'll notice that it feels darker. But when I don't have it, or I have this EQ engaged, you notice that it feels brighter. And guess what? When you look at this right here, it's all subtractive EQing. I literally took out frequencies and it got brighter. And this is extremely powerful when you do this, because instead of adding so much stuff to the vocal, you could just pull things out so that you actually get more headroom. Realize when you're boosting EQs, you're adding to your headroom. You know what I mean? You're adding to your dynamic range as far as eating up how much space you have. So when you pull frequencies out, you're actually gaining more space. There's more room for everything else to breathe as far as the instruments and stuff is concerned. And this is why I just think like this. I say I'm going to subtractive EQ because it's going to make room for other things, as opposed to leaving it alone, boosting it up. Now I'm probably going to fight with some other instruments, as well as I'm eating up some of my headroom. So subtractive EQing, do not run from it. If you're looking to make a vocal brighter, think subtractive first, then start to add after that process. So this is the first EQ I added. So first thing I did was I rolled off, I put a low cut at 127 Hertz, rolled off a bunch of that low end, boom, right? Pretty common practice. If you don't do that, I would suggest it. Maybe not 127 for me, for this song, I liked it, but maybe like 80 Hertz, roll off some of that low rumble on the bottom. Then I went into this 208 and this 300 Hertz range for both of these. So I took out some of that because it's more of a boxier tone. I'll let you see what I mean right now. Let me copy this. Check this out. I'm going to boost this all the way up. Listen to what it sounds like.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. Can't lie, I'm confused, baby.
So can you feel that? It gets brighter when I pull that out. That boxiness kind of goes away, and then it kind of feels like it kind of opens up a lot more. It feels like the vocal has this space and it feels a lot more lighter on my ear. And that's why I kind of like pulling that stuff out. So once again, subtractive EQing to achieve brightness. Pretty sick. Okay, here and here, same kind of feeling that I applied. I applied it to the 469 hertz range, and I applied a little bit of EQ out of the 780 hertz range. And basically, it was a little bit muddy in those frequencies. I didn't like it, and I wanted to pull it out. I'll exaggerate the 469 to give you an idea. Listen close.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else.
So you feel it got a little bit lighter on your ear, felt a little better. I'll express this next frequency range to 780. Check this out.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else.
So for me, that frequency range actually hurt a little bit, and I pulled it out. So I was like, take that out as well. So this has all been done to accomplish more brightness in the vocal, just taking out some of those lower end frequencies to accomplish some brighter, a brighter audio signal from the vocal. Okay, so let's move on. So that was my first EQ that I did to achieve some brightness out of the vocal. Remember, that was subtractive EQing. Now, right on over here is my other EQ that I use. And I don't want you to be discouraged when you see this EQ, all these knobs and stuff like that. Literally, I want you to think of this as a regular EQ that you always use. It has the low filter, the low cut. It has the high cut or the high pass, or it's just like a regular EQ. So what I did was this. I'm going to play this without and with. It's going to be a huge difference. Listen closely.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. I can't lie, I'm confused, baby. Cause you was just talking crazy to me in DMs.
Okay, so when you hear that, it's a huge difference. It is straight bright. It's a bright signal. The low end is, I don't want to say gone, but I've taken a lot of the low end off of that vocal. Now I know what you're saying. Hey man, you took off too much low end. Let me tell you something, because there's a method to this. Now, when I compress this particular vocal right here, it's going to sound great. And the reason why is because when I add the compression, it's going to bring back the body, a lot of the body of that vocal. Now, the beautiful thing about why I cut so much of that vocal is because now when I compress, guess what I'm compressing? I'm compressing only the good stuff. I'm compressing that high end. So you'll get more out of the bite of the vocal. You'll get more of the high end and things of that nature because there's not that much of that bottom rumble, which is actually eats up a lot more headroom than higher frequency information to interfere with that. So the compressor is grabbing the higher end stuff and boosting that and taming that, as opposed to having to deal with that low end stuff so much. So you get a vocal that just, to me, will cut right through the mix, sounds ultra bright, and sounds really, really dope. Let me let you know my settings as far as what I did. Now, I did initially get this idea from a very talented mix engineer. His name is Leslie Brathwaite. He has done everyone's stuff. He's mixed everyone's stuff. He's also a Full Sail alum. Shout out Full Sail. I'm with the Full Sail. And long story short, he had this ideology where he said that, you know, when it comes to a vocal sounding natural, he was like, naturally, we don't hear the low end of someone's voice unless they're close right here in our ear. But when someone's talking from far away, you don't really hear the low end of their voice. You feel the certain top heavy frequencies that you'll hear. So I took that into account, and I basically say, hey, this is how it kind of should sound in music as well. Preference, preference, preference. So check this out. I rolled off a ton of low end at 303 hertz, right? I took off some more at 890 hertz, and then I took out some in the 3.5 kilohertz. Now that 3.5 kilohertz, I told you guys before, is more of a pain frequency. I'm really not a fan of this frequency. It's needed, yes, but I do like to tame it as I go because that frequency can get harsher and harsher and harsher, and that's the one that brings a lot of pain to my ear. Now, the only boosting that I did for this vocal was a boost at the about 10,000 hertz range. And basically, the way I feel about this is pick your brightness. So check this out. So I'm going to play this, and what I'm going to do is I have it boosted at 4.5 dB. I'm going to move this knob and change the frequency of where I want my brightness to be added. So listen close. Hold on one second. Let me copy this. Listen close.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. I can't lie, I'm confused, baby. Cause you was just talking crazy to me in DMs.
So you see, everything basically over that 5 kilohertz range, you'll notice that it's a different kind of brightness. One, as far as that 9 kilohertz range, it feels like this bitier brightness. When I go into that 14 kilohertz range, it feels more like more like air. And this is where I kind of pick what kind of brightness fits the song. And I always do this. So peep this within the song right quick. So I'm going to put everything back on right quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sweep the brightness on this, and let's see where you even feel the brightness should go. So check this out.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. Can't lie, I'm confused, baby. Cause you were just talking crazy to me in DMs. It all makes sense now, cause...
So you see, when I land around that 9,000 hertz range, that it feels like I get like this double win. I get like this biteness, this bitey brightness, and it felt right. It cut right through the mix. It felt great. Now the air at 14,000 or higher kilohertz felt great, but it kind of made it feel a little puny. As opposed to the 9,000 hertz range, it just had such a bite and brightness to it that I love and adore. So this is what I like to do. I'll usually sweep and say, that's the right brightness, and I'll be right there. So that's a really dope trick to use for the brightness. Now realize, guys, and girls, I only boosted one frequency band in this whole process and got a vocal that bright. So that whole thing was just that. So I'll turn all this stuff off again, and I'll bypass it back and forth and listen to this.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. I can't lie, I'm confused, baby.
So the vocal just sounds super bright, and that's literally, I boosted one frequency. I boosted at the 9,000 9,000 hertz range, and it sounds a lot brighter. Now I know a lot of you guys are probably just, as soon as you get the vocal, you're just boosting the high end. Subtract, take some of that low end off, and I guarantee you it'll make your life so much easier. One other trick, or one last trick that I'll show you guys to get some more brightness out of your vocal, is I like to use analog saturation. Super common. I like the way that analog saturation, emulation saturation, from people that want to be sticklers out there. I like to do this because it adds a type of brightness that I feel like can't be accomplished with just bare EQs. It adds a certain nuance, a certain tone, a certain color to its brightness that I can't accomplish sometimes with just basic EQs. Now, granted, this is analog saturation, emulation. It's giving me an emulation of outboard gear. And sometimes with outboard gear, you'll notice that some pieces of equipment give you this brightness or give you this color that you can't just dial in on just a simple EQ. So that's why I'll move on over to this one just to get some more brightness out of it. So I give you two EQs just now, the SSL and the regular F6. And now I'm giving you just some analog saturation of brightness, and that's it. So check this out. I'll show you before and after. So without first.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline. Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. I can't lie, I'm...
So you hear that vocal, it just sounds brighter, but the brightness has a certain character, a certain color, a certain feeling to it. And that's why I like to use analog saturation, emulation, when it comes to giving brightness to my vocal. And that's basically what I like to do to just add some basic saturation, some basic EQ and a little bit of analog saturation to give my vocal a brighter sound. And you can do this in your own mixes. I'm trying to show you the ideology of doing it subtractively as opposed to additive wise. When it came to this fat filter Saturn, all I did was I moved on over to the 840 hertz range and boosted up 2.5 dB. I literally boosted the second half of the vocal. So it's like you adding an EQ, going to 860 hertz and boosting that whole range about 2 dB just to add some more brightness. And it gave me that sound. Now, granted, I'll move on over to here and I'll de-ess. That is the most important thing I can tell you guys about adding brightness to your vocals is you got to make sure that you de-ess these vocals, because sometimes or all the time they will wind up being too bright. So what I like to do is I like to put on any type of de-esser. Make sure you're doing it at around that 9,000 hertz and above range, just so you can kind of attack those S's and T's. Like, check this out.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else. I can't lie, I'm confused, baby.
So if you're paying close attention to those S's and T's, pay very close attention to the S's and T's. Check this out again.
Why didn't I know you had somebody? Proposal all on your timeline with someone else.
So the S's and T's are being tamed. It's literally attacking just those frequencies, but I still have the brightness in my vocal, and that's why it's super important that after you do this stuff to this process, that you make sure you de-ess these vocals. If you are not de-essing your vocals after you're doing all this stuff, you are crazy, and you need to do this because you're gonna hurt someone's ears, especially your own. So what I had it at is the 8,791 hertz range, and it's basically bringing it down about 12 dB. Anytime it crosses that threshold, it's smacking those S's and T's down, and I get that desired effect. So I hope this was helpful. This was a video basically on how to get a brighter vocal in your mix. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe. Make sure you follow us at Help Me Devon on the Instagram. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, please email me at helpmedevon@gmail.com. We have a ton of templates and stuff like this exactly. Download in the description below for Studio One users, Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton, all kinds of stuff. Let me know what else you want to see. And until next time, you guys.